Thousands of individuals who know you have psychic abilities but don't know how to tap into your higher self. Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who offers classes that can help you reach your goals. Refined Divine holds classes Monday and Thursday at her 2 locations and via Zoom. Classes consist of manifestation, learning psychic abilities, shadow work, and healing trauma. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
This is Psychic Medium Deb. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
This is your Magus Books magical moment with Liz. Peer into the mystic realms with a crystal ball. Gaze deeply into its depths. Clear your mind and let your visions or feelings guide you. Trust the whispers of the universe as you unlock its hidden messages. Embrace the magic of the crystal ball and unveil the mysteries of tomorrow at Magus Books and Herbs. Find us in the Arts District at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis and at magusbooks.com. That's magusbooks.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Loya. Clear tonight with a low of 44, then sunshine Tuesday with a high of 72. You can find the best roast beef sandwiches and so much more at Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville. Add fries or onion rings for a winning combination. Mavericks is located on Lexington Avenue, 1 mile south of Highway 36. Visit their website at mavericksbeef.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you for joining us on this Monday evening in October. Thank you very much for being there. I just wanted to also say thank you to Char Savoy and the Charvinity Fair. We were out there yesterday. Normally I'm out there all weekend, but I was only out there Sunday as we did our presentation, which we call 18 minutes, which I do believe, and I am biased here, but I do believe it is one of the truest presentations on the paranormal that I've ever experienced, because we were able to take a whole investigation, a recording of 18 minutes that included all sorts of things from channeling to spirit box, EVPs, shadows, knocking, and it all comes out to one ending that is very logical and is also very beautiful. So if you have the opportunity, if we're doing it around town or something, and you have the opportunity for it, please check out our presentation. It's not something we get a lot of questions like, can we do that live, like, or do it like on the radio? And we don't, because it takes a bit of patience. It's a slow burn to listen to 18 minutes, and kind of when you finally figure out what's going on, it's not as clear cut as you think. Plus, we're very protective of it because it is such a beautiful thing that, and I think my guest tonight will also agree, you got to be kind of careful when it comes to some of that stuff in the paranormal, because what happens is that you don't want to have it taken other places. You don't want it to be misconstrued. You do not want it to be I guess abused, quite frankly. So we're very careful about that. Before we bring on Father Ken, I do want to say that and I was talking about this with Father right before the start of the program. All eyes are on Florida right now. Hurricane Milton, where we last checked in, it was still Category 5, 180 miles per hour. Just absolutely ridiculous, absolutely horrifying. For all of you out there in Florida, please be safe. Please take care. If you need to evacuate, please do so. And I don't expect Greg Bakun telling you to evacuate means you're going to evacuate, but please know that you're loved and that we care for you, and we just want you to be as safe as possible. To all of our friends and to everyone out there in Florida, we're thinking of you. As we kind of get things going here, we haven't had Father Ken Torres on in a long time. It's been over a year. And when we had him on last time, we were talking about his book, Introduction to the Demonic Education. And it's one of the things that I am consistently am so interested in the demonic. I'm interested in exorcisms and exorcists, which is what Reverend Ken is. And I just wanted to have another conversation of it and just really kind of see exactly what he's doing. First of all, Reverend Ken, I gotta ask, is it Father Ken or Reverend Ken? Because I thought it was Father Ken, and you're writing over Reverend.
It's Father Ken, but Reverend Doctor is a very neutral term among the Christian community. So it can either be Reverend Father or Reverend Doctor. Since I do have a doctorate degree, I just use Reverend Doctor.
It's not fair to confuse me from the very start. It's just gonna make things even more confusing. You don't understand how easy it is to confuse me.
Let me pick it up real quick, because I also use StreamYard as well for my other streams and for other projects. So sometimes I forget to change the headline. So we'll take care of that right now. There we go.
Well, you gotta please me, because there we go. Why don't you just do Father Reverend Dr. Ken Torres? I mean, just cover it all, for goodness.
Oh man, that'd be so egotistical. And the question is what denomination. I am Catholic, so I am considered an old Catholic priest, ordained under the old rite. And so, yeah, I've been a few years with the Solomonic Order of St. Michael the Archangel, the prior general of that organization. My old archbishop, who, God rest his soul, was a retired Vatican priest and created this little Catholic order. And as I was going through seminary school, I came across it and I became a deacon and went through the process. So yeah, we are considered old Catholics, pre-Vatican II, not supported or endorsed by Rome in any way. That kind of goes along like with the schisms, like the Orthodox Church, Anglican, Lutheran. That's all church history. But we still practice the sacraments. What else? I mean, I have a master's in counseling, pastoral counseling. I have a doctorate in divinity and theology. I am a veteran. I was in the Marine Corps. I'm a chaplain. I was a chaplain for the VA, working with veterans with over 10,000 clinical hours. And I'm also a chaplain for our Knights of Columbus Christian Catholic Council. So that's a little bit about me.
Now, Father Ken, I don't want to chastise you here, but I am going to ask, because I'm seeing you're looking at the comments. Do not answer the comments. I will ask the questions, because we got a radio audience out there who doesn't know what the questions are being asked. So I am going to do my job as a radio host and be able to feed you what you need. So you don't need to do all the extra work. I will bring that in myself.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm so used to a podcast format that I forgot that this was radio.
Yeah, no problem here. We blame Annette for asking the questions. Okay, so here's the thing. Last year, no, I'm just kidding, Annette. Last year, one of the things that I thought was, and Adam, who does the show with me on occasion, he reminded me of this, was that we had a call, and I don't know if you remember this, because you do so many podcasts and shows and everything else, but we had someone call in. They wouldn't come on the air, and they said, because we were really deep in this conversation about this subject, and they said we were always under the impression that we never talk about it. And I thought that we could start with that, because we should be talking about it, shouldn't we? I mean, because that's the only way folks like you are able to get out the truth, I would think.
Right. Yes. So it's really good to talk about these topics. Among the church, you'll have different preaching, you'll have different sermons, you'll have different homilies. But what I find often is that people are afraid of the dark. They're afraid to talk about spiritual warfare. If you're Christian, Catholic, anything within the Christian faith, and even Islamic faith, there is a history and tradition of dealing with negative energies and demons, so to speak. So it's important to talk about it. It's important to understand spiritual warfare. It's important to understand how we protect ourselves, how we can defend ourselves. I think the
Mhm.
confusing part is what people misunderstand is when you start mentioning names of these entities. I think that's where the scarier part comes. People are
Yeah.
just like, well, if we talk about it, that means we're acknowledging them. Yes, we acknowledge their existence. We acknowledge that these things are alive. Well, in that sense, but we don't talk about their names. We don't give them power in that sense.
And is it like a movie thing, like a Hollywood thing, that if you say their name, that is detrimental to them? Because you see some films that do that, you see others that don't. I've actually talked to people who, there's one gentleman that calls himself a demon hunter, which I find personally a rather an interesting title, I guess. And he was always one to be like, if you find out their name, that has an effect on them. Where does that stand?
So that stands from the ancient tradition of the Catholic and the Orthodox Church over 2,000 years, understanding and getting the name of that entity because now you have dominion over them. You have discovered who they are. And
Yeah.
so when you do that, you have been given the authority through Christ, not the individual, through Christ, through our Savior, to expel that demon, to provide deliverance for the individual who is oppressed. So that stems a lot from Catholic traditions, the Christian church traditions that spanned over thousands of years.
And that's what you follow. I mean, I know you don't follow. It's a
Yeah.
different. But it is. Do you believe that about the names as well that you have?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
I do follow the Roman ritual. The Roman ritual is the guide that I do use for our Catholic order. Like I said, we still follow the sacraments. We
Mhm.
are just different in the tradition where our church, we don't believe in Philoclea, which is the papal infallibility, and we also believe that our priests should be married, kind of like the Orthodox and the other apostolic churches. But I do use the Roman ritual, and it has been very effective.
Now, first of all, since you last been on, congratulations. You've gotten married.
Yes, thank you.
That's awesome. I've tried it once. It's not. I get it. Just goes to show it's not meant for everybody.
Yeah,
But I'm sure you're very happy.
I'm very
And
happy. Yes.
good. And also with that, I just kind of curious. Do you in your part of the Catholic, your version of Catholic Church, do you recognize like the other priests? Like I remember, like say Bishop James Long and the church that he was
Yes.
part of. That like
Yes.
they recognize the Pope, but the Pope is just is another priest opposed to the head of the
Yes.
church.
Yes. Like he'd be considered a patriarch of the church or the bishop of that area.
And like you
Yes.
said, that you don't follow the belief that his infallibility.
Correct.
In yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That
it's
is those are the only differences that we have, which would
so.
technically put us in schism. But I mean, when you go back to the traditions of the church, you would notice like the Council of Nicaea, the Council of Trent, when we would say the Apostles' Creed or the Nicene Creed, we would all agree the Orthodox and the Catholic Church were one in the same church. And so when the creed was remodified by the Patriarch of the West, which would be considered the Pope, the theory is that he put himself in schism because he made himself authority over all of the churches. And that's theological debate. I normally don't pay any mind to it, but we just embrace the different beliefs of the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. And I humbly believe that there are people who are called by the Holy Spirit, and the litmus must be true. We must have valid apostolic succession, which is what I do have. We follow the sacraments, which is highly important. And so that is the only difference in opinion that we have. Other than that, we follow everything else that the church does.
Absolutely. And
Sacrament wise, yes.
I see a couple things. I'm going to read them for you. Annette just says I'm way behind. I thought priests couldn't get married, but we're talking about the different different Catholic churches. In my opinion, for what it's worth, and it's not really
Yeah,
worth a whole lot, I think priests should marry. I think that
right,
I think priests. I mean, and I don't want to get into a nasty conversation here. I think you know
right,
where I'm
right.
going.
Yes,
So I
yes,
mean, I agree. That's a perfect example of, in my mind, why that
right.
should be the case. Now, if you're reading if you're reading the comments, there's one that I'm just going to ask because it's there. I think it's something worth talking about. If exorcist priests should stay pure to show no weakness, though. I feel like that's a very much that's a point of view more than a fact, if you ask me. That
Right,
that
right.
question.
That's a respectable opinion. Everyone does have their opinion, and I respect that opinion. But the truth is, I think being married as well prepares you more, because being married as well, you are able to balance life and you are able to work your ministry better. But not only that, though, you are more relatable to the families that you're helping. And I think it should be an option that priests should be married. But yeah, I mean, I get everyone's opinion. There are people who are still old school trad Catholics and they believe that priests shouldn't be married, and that's okay. I respect that. But we look
Yeah.
at different branches of the Catholic Church or the Christian faith, and we notice that even the apostles were married. So this concept of not being married is only several hundred years old. It's a fairly new concept.
Absolutely. And I mean, in my mind, I always consider that to be kind of the separation between religion, like between almost like
Right.
faith and organized religion.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And that's the
and
truth.
sorry, I don't know if you had more to that
Oh,
thought or not.
no. I agree with you. No, I agree with you 100%.
But I too, it's an interesting thing too, because I think about my parents. I grew up as a Catholic, Roman Catholic, and when you're absolutely right. When people have that, like that's been with them their whole life, not understanding that there has been different branches. They see
Yes.
something as one, that like if I were to explain to my parents such thing, it would be very hard for them. And that's to your
Yeah.
point that you made earlier. That's just how it is.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
just how it goes.
Everyone has their opinions, and people are raised a certain way with a certain narrative, and that's wonderful. It's not my job to change your mind, but I often think that people forget that there are different customs and traditions. It's not just one centralized thing. If you don't open your mind to different things, then you'll always have a linear way of thinking. But I maintain that the apostles were married, and that's not going to change. And I also believe that the option to be married within at least the Roman Catholic Church would eliminate a lot of problems. And I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely, 100%. Why don't we go ahead and do this? Because okay, folks, we got Father Ken's his family life out of the way now in the first segment here. What I want to do though is I want to focus on exorcisms, and why don't we do this? Let's go ahead. Let's take our first break here, and when we come back, we're going to be able to start getting into that. There's some people putting some stuff in the comments that we can touch on with that. There's a whole lot to get to here. And I think there's stuff that I think we want to allow Father Ken to use as kind of a way to explain some stuff with exorcisms. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com. Gritty Gear Company is a great place to go for clothing that is fun and expressive, but did you know we also do custom orders on demand? We've worked with all types of companies and organizations, from first responders to even a certain radio station. Our team is here to help you look amazing. Our clothing is of the highest quality, and you will love your logo on the finished product. We are a locally owned small business who simply wants you to look great. Find out more at grittygearcompany.com. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like many of you, I still collect physical books, and not just any books, but books about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. I go to Megas Books and Herbs, located in the Arts District of Minneapolis, but books are only part of it. Megas Books and Herbs offers crystals, jewelry, herbs, oils, and consultations on how to use this stuff. Check out their in-store classes and events too. This place has everything to expand your horizons. Located at 1848 Central Avenue, Minneapolis, or visit megasbooks.com. And welcome back to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our guest tonight is Father Dr. Ken Torres. Father Torres is an exorcist. We're going to be talking about that tonight. We're going to talk about what that means. I also think that we want to talk about what it doesn't mean as well, and really kind of get into some areas that are very important to talk about. So we're gonna get to that right now. You know, some of the stuff, you know, I was curious about, Father Ken, is simply, you know, I would think to become an exorcist, you would have to have performed some exorcisms. Am I correct with that?
Correct. Yes. So the way I became an exorcist is when I was in seminary school and I finished, I was a deacon with my order, and two of my archbishops called me up and they flew me out to South Carolina to help them out on a case, right? So we go to this other little chapel, and when I arrive there, there is an individual that is seated in a chair. And they begin doing the rituals, and they have me read from the Roman ritual. And that is when this person started elevating from the chair. Eyes turned color, but we were able to successfully exorcise him through the prayer, through Christ alone. And that's when they both told me, "You are an exorcist." And so since then, I have been an exorcist, right? And it takes a certain person to be an exorcist. I understand people's concerns about family life and that sort of thing, but you have to be in a certain state of grace. You have to live a very holy life. For me, I pray, I read the Bible, I give scripture, I do homilies. And a lot of the work that I do, mostly as an exorcist, and even with the foundation and all of the other work that I do, is chaplaincy work. So when you talk to people, you're providing chaplaincy. So that's a lot of the work that I do: pastoral counseling, guiding people, comforting people, helping them understand their feelings and their emotions. So I am not a psychologist, right? So I cannot give any medical advice, but I do have a master's in pastoral counseling, and I am a board certified mental health coach, which gives me a little leeway in understanding a little bit of how mental illness works. And so I work holistically, side by side. When I say holistically, I mean I work through faith, prayer, meditation, scriptural reading, Sunday studies, alongside with these individuals, as well as their healthcare providers. They do a release of information, we get their documents, they'd have to get a psychological and medical evaluation done, and that's when we begin the process, a discovery phase, so to speak. But it all starts with talking to people, chaplaincy. You're not fighting demons right away.
And the fact, which is why this is so important with the background that you have, and we've talked about before, is that not every time you go into starting the discovery phase of exorcism, turns out there's any demons involved at all.
Right, right. So out of the 4 possession cases that I've had, one of them has been true possession. The other 3 have been infestation or some sort of manifestation. The other one, borderline oppression. And all of those have a connection to them. And that connection is a deeply rooted traumatic event that those people have dealt with that has gone untreated. And so by whatever means that they've done, communicated, dabbled with the occult, or inadvertently invited something over, that is as a result because they are struggling. They are going through dark times. They're going through a dark season in their life, and they've had no one to speak to about it. And most of them, they have had a undiagnosed mental illness like schizophrenia or bipolar
Mhm.
disorder. We do know that mental illness and demonic possession can work hand in hand. Not saying that can't happen, but for the majority of the other 200 cases that I've worked throughout the foundation and throughout my ministry, a lot of them have just been that mental illness or misunderstanding the paranormal, or they watch a scary movie and they see a shadow at the corner of their eye, or
Mhm.
they're having trouble with their spouse, they're having a hard time at work. And when we go back and we dig back the layers, peel the onion, so to speak, then we help them identify what's the root cause of that. Come to find out, it's not so much supernatural, but it's the individual themselves. But in that rare occasion, because it does happen, but it's also rare that there is some sort of demonic affliction, manifestation, or oppression, we find that people have either been dabbling with the occult or inadvertently summoned something or try to make some sort of negotiation with a darker spirit. And they've dabbled with the occult. And when I say the occult, I don't mean just pick up to read a book. They perform rituals from occult practices that they know nothing about and have inadvertently summoned something. Now, I'm not saying that the occult is the problem, it's just the mere interaction and doing things that you have no knowledge of that can summon or attract something into your life.
Are they summoning because they hope that whatever they summon will help them, or are they summoning because they're just curious what they might get?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think some people are just lost in their sea of desperation and they are looking for a connection, or sometimes they're looking for a way to retaliate against the people who have hurt them. And so they
Mhm.
resort to these practices, they resort to doing these things. And so that's where I think some of this, can stem from underlying trauma. I want to get back at you because you hurt me, or, justice needs to be served. And the other half as well, there are people who just inadvertently may have summoned something, not knowing, okay, well, they're going to do something. They decide they're going to mess with the Ouija board, or they're going to go to the cemetery at night and do some EVP recordings. And maybe they attract something and something follows them home. But then their mindset, right? The right conditions, it's like, okay, this person is not doing well psychologically, physically, and mentally and emotionally. So that's just a prime recipe for disaster.
I also find that there's people out there, and I mean, so we kind of, touched a little bit, I guess, at some point on this about just the paranormal field in general, and
Right.
I have always had a theory that the people who are quote not afraid to go into rooms to provoke, to be able to think that they can summon whatever they want. I personally believe that they are people who actually don't believe in any of this, and that more often than not, they find out the hard way that this is actually real.
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting theory, and I never thought of it that way. I find also people that who are mostly involved with the paranormal and the supernatural investigations, it's some sort of coping mechanism. I've got a good friend who's a psychologist who does the analysis for me. I won't mention their name, but they put out a study recently that in the paranormal field, because they were former paranormal investigators, and this psychologist put out a theory that 60 to 70% of people who are involved in paranormal investigations may have suffered from some sort of trauma, and this is just a coping mechanism, which can be healthy. It's a coping mechanism, and it can be healthy. The problem lies when you become obsessively obsessed with this. That's where the problem lies.
That's very interesting. I could see that too. I think a lot of people feeling like that they are basically completely they're powerful. Like they can do it. That
Yeah,
they're that there isn't anything holding them back, because I think sometimes when you don't see something, you really can underestimate what it is.
right.
And now your start in all this, have you always come from a place of love and light to do this, or have you like experienced
No,
stuff?
no, I have been through the gutter. A little personal about me. So I did come from a broken home. My
Mhm.
mother was in and out of my life, streetwalker, so to speak. My father, wasn't there either. So my grandmother raised me. So I come from a broken home. But also with that, I've had some really bad experiences growing up. One significant experience was there was something afflicting my family, I would say at 11 or 12 years old. And it was just mimicking my family, mimicking my sister, to the point where for the audience who's listening, it's going to be a little grotesque, to the point where one day we got home and we found our dog gutted open and crucified, right? And so there were other things that were happening as well too, mimicking strange sulfuric smells, um, candles being crushed, crosses inverted in them. And so we experienced that growing up. And there was this thing that would come out from under my sister's bed who would tell her to do certain things and teach her curse words and certain phrases in another language that my time at the sister, 4 years old, could have not possibly known.
Sure.
And so, we went through those experiences, and I remember that growing up, and, track along years later, I always knew that there was something in the supernatural realm. I joined the Marine Corps, did my time in service, did my tenure with some alphabet soup agencies, but I always knew calling was my ministry was calling, was the calling, right? And so I do my thing. I was a Protestant pastor. I did deliverance ministry, but there was just something that was missing, and so I ended up in this vocation as a exorcist.
How did you? How did the situation with your family and like with your sister? Did he get rid of whatever it was?
We did. I remember we had a priest come over and he blessed the house and everything went away. And at that time I was enamored with this individual who was tall, who had this presence about him, who was very humble and meek in the way he spoke. But when he prayed and he said the rosary, there was a command, there was some sort of presence about him that I respected and that I admired. And so that always stuck with me growing up. And I was like, wow, this individual came to our house and helped us with something that no one could possibly believe what was happening. He experienced it with us. And through the grace of God, he was able to help deliver our family. And so that always resonated with me, and that always stuck with me behind my head, in the back of my head for years to come.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't imagine how that couldn't. When you have people who reach out to you, and I know that you do, and I know you're not a demonologist,
Right,
but if
right.
they come to you and they talk about they want to get into demonology, they'd love to be able to help with exorcisms and stuff like that. What do you tell them? Because it's not something like, right, here you go. I mean, has to be like what is it that you really need to be about yourself to put yourself in those places to want to help those
Right.
people?
Right. I ask people, why do you feel the calling to do this? Is it because it's cool, it's mainstream? Is it because you saw a movie and you thought it'd be cool to exorcise demons? Because being a demonologist is completely different than being an exorcist. It
Yeah.
is not my job to understand the history of the demons and their work culture. I don't care if they have cousins or twins. My job is to deal with the afflicted and what's going on in the house. The demonologist, I think, is a really important part because they help ascertain what's actually happening in the house. And that requires a life of prayer. That also requires a life of maturity, but that also requires training from seminary school or seminary courses, not
Mhm.
just picking up the Encyclopedia of Angels and Demons and saying, that's it, I'm done. No, it requires fruitful prayerness, and you have to be make sure that you're called to this. Why would you want to put yourself in harm's way? So there's only several people that I always recommend people. If you want to be a demonologist, talk to Rich Valdez, talk to Bill Slevin, look at Mike Salerna, Dave Giuliano, Joe Frankie, Chris McKinnell, and I am missing someone else, Bill Slevin, right? Also, Bishop Long. Look at them, right? See if they offer courses, see if they offer classes, but before anything, pray about it. My question is, the most important thing is, why are you doing this? And if I find out that it's because you want to just have another notch under your belt, because you think it's cool, because you want to use it in the paranormal field, I will deny you right away. Now, I think demonology and haunted houses should not be synonymous with each other. I believe that in the paranormal realm, that word is often tossed loosely. Well, there's a demon here at the house. Well,
Yeah.
maybe there isn't. But who qualified you to make to make that note? What seminary school did you go to? Are you sure it's a demon, right? So how do you know these things? Who trained you? Well, I'm a demonologist. Well, what type of demonologist are you? Christian, Judaic, Islamic, Japanese? There's different types of demonology from around the world. And I assume that most people talk about Christian demonology because it's cool in the movies. Short
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah. Well, and it's true. I mean, I find that, and it's probably really not my place to feel this way, but I see so many people who are like, I'm taking, demonology classes, and I see where they're taking them from, and it's not so much anything other than I really doubt the veracity of what that is, and I feel like that, we're trying to bring validity to something that unfortunately has a huge media presence. And I understand that it's okay that we want to talk about this, yet at the same time, I find people who turn this stuff around into a media presence
Right.
it frustrates me, to be very honest.
It does me as well. It bothers me. Luckily, I'm not associated with those people, but I've seen people in the past posting about demonology case 125, and this is this and this is that, or people will always post like notes or tidbits about the clients that they've allegedly exercised. And to me, that's just a violation of privacy. But I don't get involved. I do have real professional credentials. So I have to remain impartial and professional. So I don't get involved in squabbles. And I
Yeah.
just tell people, use discernment, use solid judgment. And if you think that this is something that you want to do, that's fine. But I won't train you. I won't teach you, and I won't refer you to other people. And it's not that I'm anyone important, but when I make a recommendation or referral, I build a really good reputation of being really strict. And so when I make a recommendation on individuals, people will take that recommendation. If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, Padre, do you think this person will be good for the course?" I would say no. Then that person would be no. But by all means, there's different avenues of approach. And if you feel like this is your calling, ask yourself why. And you also need to make sure that you have a good psychological, mental, and physical state of being, because this is not a game. This is not something cool that you get to just read a book and all of a sudden you're going to go exercise all these different demons. Different things. Demonology and exorcism are two different vocations.
And you're also, I mean, regardless of like your own your own reputation, you're also protecting just the right of exorcism. You're protecting the what exorcists are by making sure that you're putting the right people in, and what people probably don't understand is that you're also protecting them as well by denying them.
Yes, of course, and it's always to protect the client, and it's always to protect the individual. I've heard of situations and circumstances where there are individuals who have wanted to do this ministry, or maybe they grew up in a Protestant church and they've done deliverance ministry, which is a little different, right? It's
Mhm.
deliverance is more of the, let's say, the attachment around you, oppressing you, right? As opposed to the actual exorcism ministry. The exorcism is done when the demon is inside of you or afflicting your home and your family. And so I've seen people get into this ministry and get hurt, or they've hurt other people. Could I share a personal story?
Absolutely.
So a few years ago, we were approached by a family at the Warren Legacy Foundation. There was a family who had an individual, their son, who was mentally ill, had triple schizophrenia, triple diagnosis, bipolar disorder. The family knew that the son was suffering from mental illness, but the son had auditory and visual hallucinations, and he told the family, "Hey, I am seeing what I think are spirits or demons." Okay, the family wanted to be supportive. They contacted a paranormal team. Paranormal team came to the house, charged them $5,000
Oh,
to
geez.
investigate the house. They
Wow.
had their little psychic medium, right? Who the week before took a test online to become certified as a psychic, went into that family's house and told the family and told the child, the young man, but we call him child because he had also a developmentally disabled disability, told the
Mhm.
family, told him that he had 72 legions of demons. The family reached out to us. We spoke to them. We did our very first interview. A few weeks goes by. Oh, hey, you know what? We couldn't get a hold of the family. The family gets a hold of us. Hey, Padre, we can't work with you anymore. And I go, I'm sorry. Did we do something wrong? No, Padre, you didn't do anything wrong. As a matter of fact, you and your team at the foundation did everything you could to help us out. But our son took his life. He
Oh,
left a
geez.
suicide note that he was taking his life because he has 72 legions of demons inside of him. So that is the case that always bothers me. When you have people who are unqualified and they do these things, and once again, you should not conflate the paranormal with the demonic. And if you are going to do that sort of thing, you need to be qualified.
Yes. I think I know who you're talking about, actually. All right. Well, why don't we? This sounds very cold to say this right now. Why don't we take our next break? I have to fit this in. Horrible stuff. All right. When we come back, folks, if you have questions for Father Torres, please put it in the comments. We are going to be talking more in our final segment about exorcism, and also I'm going to be talking about what happens if you feel like you need someone like Father Torres. How do we go from there? Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get our next break going? Lots more to talk about. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Twin Cities Con returns to the Minneapolis Convention Center for the 4th year, November 8th through 10th. Twin Cities Con is a celebration of comics, toys, TV, film, art, cosplay, games, and all things nerdy. There is nothing like Twin Cities Con. It's also a family-friendly event where you can meet your favorite celebrities, browse the vendor hall and artist alley for the coolest merch, watch celebrity Q&As, and even more. Twin Cities Con is bigger and better than ever before. Come see from Star Wars the Emperor himself, Ian McDermott, along with Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen, John DiMaggio, who is Bender from Futurama, WWE Hall of Fame wrestler Sting, and Sunday only Grant Gustin from The Flash and Glee, plus more guests to be announced. 3 days of action-packed fun is in the heart of Minneapolis at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Tickets start at $40. Kids tickets are just $8 for the entire weekend. VIP tickets also available, including a 3-day weekend pass, plus some really cool VIP perks. Buy your tickets and get more information at TwinCitiesCon.com. Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. Recently, I had a large order of custom-designed t-shirts that needed to be turned around in a hurry. I knew exactly who to call, Grady Gear Company. Grady Gear Company is a local company that handles large and small custom clothing and apparel orders. I had a lot of questions from color, shirt quality, and what sizes we needed. Grady Gear Company was great to work with. They got us what we needed on time, and now everybody's looking great around the station in their new gear. Start your order at GradyGearCo.com.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with MetamorphosisConnections.com. MetamorphosisConnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search MetamorphosisConnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on MetamorphosisConnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting MetamorphosisConnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's MetamorphosisConnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We're going to have on author Constance Victoria Briggs. We're going to be talking to her about her latest book, The Moon's Galactic History, a look at the moon's extraterrestrial past and its connection to Earth. This will be a fascinating conversation. It's been hard to get her on the show, so we're finally getting there, and I'm really looking forward to what she has to say. We are having right now quite the conversation. We're talking about exorcism. We're talking about Exorcist. I don't think it's a surprise to say that the subject and probably who is on, and I don't mean directly you, Father Ken, but just people have their people that they go after, and we were kind of seeing that a little bit here tonight. What is that? Do you have any? I mean, do you have any idea like why
Well,
that is?
it happens to me all the time. People are like, "Oh, you're fake. You're not listed. You're not valid. You're not real," and that's okay. I tell people, I don't need to be your priest. You don't need to accept me, or recognize me. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But the truth is, I don't need anyone's approval. Um, I think I have God's grace with me because I've been to 2 different botanicals in the past in different parts of the state, and I've been kicked out in plain clothes. I've been told by the shop owner, "Leave now, priest, because Santa Muerte does not want you here." And Our Lady of Mother of Death is an abomination of the Blessed Mother. And if I'm in plain clothes and I've been kicked out of 2 different botanicas, I think for me that lets me know that God's grace is with me. And that happens all the time.
Right.
I get messages all the time. People spam me, people send me hate messages, and that's okay. I'm not here to prove myself to anyone. I'm not here to become famous. I'm not here to get invited to your little paranormal convention. I don't care whether or not you think anything of me. What's important to me is how I treat my clients and the people that reach out to me. My labor, my fruits of my labor speak for themselves.
Absolutely. It's incredible. And it's just another example of, and it's that anonymous sort of like coming after
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And you're the one that has your name out there. You're the one that people can see, but then you have those keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
Let's get on to something a little bit more interesting and about, the way that you help people with
Right.
exorcisms and just it goes beyond that, obviously. But
Right.
if
Right.
someone comes to you and says, Father, I feel like that there is something abnormal, and it's probably more than likely it's not them that they're talking about. They're talking about someone else that they love, right?
Right.
It's not.
Right.
It really isn't going to be like I think something with me. It's going to be my son or my husband or whatever. What is the first stage? What's the first thing you do to kind of start figuring out what you need to do?
So the very first thing, we call that a discovery phase. What I do is I set up a virtual meeting with the family and the alleged individual who might be possessed. And so what I do though is I show up in plain clothes. I show up as Ken Torres. That's it, right?
Mhm.
I don't put father. I don't have any symbols or anything on me. And then I ask the questions, and then I get to know the individual, and I ask about family history. I have an assessment team. My clerical team, we have an assessment team. We have a series of questions that we ask: medical history, sexual abuse, drug abuse, family history, property, and we get to know each other first. I build a relationship and a rapport with the family first and the client as well. And then we go from there. Set up a couple of sessions, ask how their prayer life is, what their spiritual life is like, what underlying traumas or issues are they facing as a family, what is their dynamic? Are they in poverty? Are they hungry? Are they starving? But more importantly, if it's an individual that they're speaking on behalf of, all right, cool, let's talk to them and get to know them. I look for behaviors. I look for changes in eye colors. I look for distorted voices. I look for different things happening in the background. And then later on, I'll pull up my cross and I'll just randomly nonchalant pull it out. And if I start getting a reaction, and I don't mean, "Oh my gosh, get that away." If I can see visual and physical changes in the person's personality and their body type, then there might be something. And even if a person, let's say, is genuinely possessed, it still doesn't negate the fact that you still have to do a psychological and physical evaluation on them.
Yeah.
Because if you go in and do a ritual and they're not mentally and physically prepared, they could die.
Right. It's that's something that I think that is really important to people know, and we keep going back to that sort of mental evaluation because I think it's fair to say that throughout history, since the rite of exorcism has been around, that there's been probably a
Right.
great deal of misdiagnosis around
Right,
that.
right. Which is why the church requires that psychological evaluations be done, even if there is something prevalent, even if there is something truly demonic. We are entrusted with the care of souls, but we're also entrusted with the care of that individual. So, how ethical and professional would it be of me if I neglect their physicality? Because their
Right.
physicality is everything. We need to make sure that they're healthy. We need to make sure that they're eating, that they're dieting, that they're doing the proper things to get better in order to even consider the possibility of a ritual, either a minor rite of deliverance, solemn rite of deliverance, or a major exorcism. So all those things, go hand in hand with one another. You cannot have one and not the other. You cannot neglect the physical and just worry about the spiritual, and vice versa. Those are important. Let's take prime example. Hey, you can eat, right? Let's say you exercise all the time. Would it be fair to say that if you don't eat right and you don't hydrate right, that workout is going to be sufficient and good for you, healthy for you?
Yeah,
What
absolutely
happens
not.
when you don't eat? What happens when you don't feed your body? What happens when you don't hydrate? Right?
You turn
You
in
start
meat.
breaking
Yeah.
down. Exactly. But yeah, and that's the thing. You have to be cognizant and aware of those things. It's not just, oh, Dominus Jesuas, and that's it, and it's done. No,
Yeah.
it's a
Right.
process, and it takes
Well,
time. No, I'm done.
you have to watch. I mean, you don't have to. But you may have seen certain programs where, and I don't watch this stuff anymore. I can't, because I know too much now. I know how things work, and you'll watch some of these shows for entertainment value, even though they try to make it look real, and they're doing emergency exorcisms on people and
Right.
stuff. And that's the thing, is like you just brought up, this stuff does not move like that. It doesn't move quickly. There's no like breaking a glass box and you can pull out the holy water and stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't happen like that. And so I see these shows with entertainment value, and I just keep my opinion to myself. And I just say, I really pray that if there's something truly happening, that the person is okay. And I also pray for the individual that's performing that ritual. I've seen the rise in exorcists in the paranormal field, and I pray that these people who are doing this are doing it with pure intentions and are studying. But it takes time, it takes years, and it also takes discernment. It's not just one of those
Yeah.
things where I feel like there is a demon. Okay, well, even if you feel like there's a demon, where's your concrete proof? Where's the evidence? Because even the church requires evidence. It's not just, well, I feel like he has a demon. I feel like she has a demon. Why? Because my powers to be told me. Okay, you need to confirm that. So let's confirm that first before you jump the gun. That's how people get hurt. And let's say there really is something truly demonic. And as clergy, you're not prepared and you jump to it right away. You're in a
Yeah.
world of hurt, because you have to be in a state of grace. For me, when I work on these cases, it takes at least 2 weeks of prayer for me. All right, fasting, abstaining from certain foods, abstaining from certain things, because I am married, prayer and dedication. And I have to lock myself up in a sense where put myself away and separate myself from everyone around me, because I love them and they know what I'm doing. Obviously, I have the support of my wife, who knows that this work is troublesome. And so I have always her praying for me. And we have a good group of clergy and other people that I can rely on as well, too, that are going to be supportive during this phase of becoming, getting a state of grace.
Absolutely. And I think that's very important, that that's out there for people, especially those who had wondered earlier about, just how does that work, if they're only
Right.
thinking of traditional priests and stuff. Linda says, and we're only have about 2 minutes left here. Linda says, this is good questioning that Father Torres does. Many folks, especially ghost investigators, need to learn the art of asking questions, but I do think it goes beyond that. I mean, that's a good start, but I think also there needs to be just the, when if I myself as a paranormal investigator, if I'm going into something and I'm like, this doesn't feel right, this feels like it's bigger than me, it's darker than anything I do, that's when you start, when I might reach out then to you or to someone else that I know. I mean, to be able to know when to hand it off, and don't be a hero, don't try to do something that you are not able to do.
Right. That's true. It's discernment. It's having wisdom. It's being mature, and it's more. You're right. It's more than just asking questions. You have to be able to identify certain things. You kind of have to be like some sort of caseworker. You have to be able to look at the sociodynamics of the family, the history. Also, you are observing. It is my job to be as skeptical as possible. I am a skeptic when it comes to these things. When someone says that they are possessed, okay, thank you. Let me be the judge of that. We'll work together and we'll find a solution.
Absolutely. And I think that's when something takes longer, I think that's a better gauge to know that you are right, or that you identified. I think that's really what I mean there.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. I
you
mean,
need to take the time.
yeah, if you're doing 20 exorcisms a day with different people, or you're just having an exorcism drive-through like a McDonald's, then I question that. You know, I question more of the hurt you've done to other people, because not only that though,
Absolutely.
I know we're running short on time, but what you're doing is you're feeding into this false narrative of the psyche of the individual. Now you are confirming to them that they are possessed. In reality, they are not. And so you've created this other layer of stress, this other layer of anxiety, and now you may have just awoken an undiagnosed or now an inconceivable mental illness that's going to be worse in the long run.
Absolutely. Father Ken, can you tell us how people can get a hold of you, please?
Right, yeah. So you can get a hold of me on my Facebook profile, or Father Ken Doctor, spelled out completely, fatherkendoctor.com. You can get a hold of me there, and social media. Yeah.
No, I think that's fantastic. And I'll put that into the comments when I do my write-up for the show tomorrow. And folks, please reach out. Father Torres, thank you so very much. I really appreciate you taking the time and giving us so much education tonight.
Thank you so much, Greg, for having me. It was a pleasure and an honor.
Absolutely. We'll be back tomorrow. Everyone, have a fantastic night.